Welcome to Hummingbird Hill, where the irises are in bloom, the neighbors are watching, and everyone knows your business before you do. Word around the cul-de-sac is that someone very sophisticated has moved in and has opinions about your coffee, your children, and your life choices. We won't say who. We'll just say he writes with a goose quill dipped in venom, and he's absolutely not impressed. I'm your host, Ben, and joining me today is the wonderful Danielle Aubuchon. We are celebrating one of Hollywood's most brilliant and wildly underrated actors, the one and only Clifton Webb. Grab your cup and let's get into it. Welcome to Real Beans. I'm so happy to have you here to listen. We have a special guest for us today. Joining us is the effervescent Danielle Aubuchon. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you. Thanks. Great to be here, Ben.
And we're going to have an exciting time because we're going to be talking about a very underrated actor named Clifton Webb. And we have a double feature to discuss today. We have the noir classic from 1944 called Laura. And the other film we'll be discussing is his third and final Oscar nomination for Best Actor in a hilarious comedy called Sitting Pretty, where he plays Mr. Belvedere, who went on to do two other sequels of that character because he was very popular at that time. Very droll, witty actor, always played the kind of prissier roles, prim and proper and acid-tongued.
Very highly educated.
All of his... most of his characters, even the ones where he played a father figure, he was still pretty, because he did the original version of Cheaper by the Dozen.
Right.
And most people would know Cheaper by the Dozen nowadays by Steve Martin's film from the 2000s, early 2000s. And also, I believe, Yours, Mine, and Ours with Henry Fonda and Lucille Ball. So he started it all, as it were. So we're going to have some fun discussing those two films. And also the drink of choice today for our coffee is from Intelligentsia, their house blend. And I've discussed Intelligentsia on here before. The house blend is their accessible drink. That coffee is extremely mellow, easy to drink, easy to brew on your home brewing methods, either on your machines, pour overs, Chemex machines. They'll all work perfectly because it's not as intense and extremely powerful as some of their other blends are. And it's not espresso blend, so it's a regular coffee. So this would be found in most households. And I chose this particular one because in these films, there's a lot of coffee drinking after dinner. And a guest or the host would have this on hand because they wouldn't be going out to buy extremely rare coffees at that time. So a house blend would be their perfect choice at the grocery store at the time. And it's a very mild blend, as I said. It's got tastes of red apple, caramel, and orange citrus. So I'm just going to take a quick sip.
Take a quick sip. I made this morning as well. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was thinking, okay, we're going to talk about this. The first note that hit me was caramel.
Yep.
And I fell madly in love because that's like one of my favorite flavors. And it's light and smooth. I know you drink it black. I put a little milk in my coffee. I don't like sugar. I don't like cream, but a little bit of milk. And it's incredibly smooth. But do you taste the fruit? There was something I couldn't put my finger on, but it was mostly caramel. So
it could be very light and subtle, or depending on how it's made. Because I did try it. I did try it in my pour over method first. And it was like a lot of pour over methods. It becomes less acidic. It's still smooth, but the flavors are pulled out a little bit more. So it's not as, in that I could taste a little bit more of a citrus feel. I could still definitely taste the caramel, but that wasn't my preferred brewing method. My preferred brewing method for this blend was in my regular automatic coffee drip. And as soon as I took a taste of it, I was like, this is what I want your average coffee to taste like. A light roast that you would find at the diner or you'd find at just a regular restaurant after dinner. It's got that smooth texture to it.
Mhm.
And as you say, the caramel is what really struck me on this. And I think that is pretty typical for a house blend or a light roast. It's that
Mhm.
type can get really,
Mhm.
you're not getting the chocolate taste like in dark roasts can get, but the caramel
Or
is
nutty.
more of a lighter,
Right.
sweeter texture to it, taste.
Mhm.
And yeah, the
I
finish
wish
off of this
is excellent. I wish most diner coffee tasted like this. This is, like, special. I mean, most of the restaurants that I go to breakfast don't have something this subtle,
yeah.
fine.
And
Um,
just a word of warning with any kind of light roast, you've got to be careful with the water ratio to coffee beans because this is where it can get really light if you have too much water and less coffee. And that's usually what happens when you go to a diner is that's a lot of times watered down, or it could be the opposite, not enough water, but too much beans. And then it really becomes a tar tasting, really
exactly.
heavy and not very tasty for the
No.
average person who enjoys coffee. I know
Right.
some people don't particularly care when it comes to diner coffee, because it does have that place and time. But anytime I'm
Sure.
at a diner or any type of restaurant that has just regular coffee and it turns out similar in what I've tasted with this Intelligentsia blend, then I know that the people are putting some care in making it properly. So
Exactly.
yeah, I was very pleased with the house blend.
Mhm.
It's a good choice, especially for
Mhm.
your average coffee drinker. If you're looking for something that's a little nicer in quality as opposed to say some store brands, or if
Mhm.
you're looking for something a little more expensive in the realm of decent light roast
Mhm.
coffee in a
Yeah.
house blend, then
Yeah.
Intelligentsia is a way to go. And Intelligentsia has been around for a long time.
Oh, has it?
They 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 do a really good job. They're mostly known for their espressos, but yeah, with this, I was trying to find the citrusy notes that it mentioned, but I couldn't quite pick that out.
Mm-mm. You
Someone
got
else
the
might.
caramel too. Yeah. It there was a little bit of the fruit, so the apple kinda made sense to me, but it really was more strongly caramel, but it's just
Yeah,
absolutely
I think the
delicious.
finish after you've taken the first sip and then right after the aftertaste of it has a little bit of acidic nature to it, which I think is where
Mm.
the either the apple or the orange citrus can really shine, and that's the brightness and floralness that
Yeah,
can come out of this.
I love it.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was
You.
very
I love
pleasing for
discovering
me.
coffees. Yes,
What's
thank you
that?
so much. I always look forward to discovering a new coffee with you, Ben, too.
Yeah, it's
That's
it's
great
great, especially when
suggestion.
you can find it because both of us found
Uh-huh.
this at Bristol Farms, but I
Bristol
know you can
Farms, yeah.
also find it at Pavilions. Target
Oh,
may have it at times, possibly Vaughn's, which is also
hmm,
related to. You might find it at Kroger. Any
okay.
specialty coffee shop would have it. You can also find it online on Intelligentsia's website as well to get it. So yeah, this is a
I thought
perfect
you
blend.
chose it I thought you chose it because Clifton is so intelligent.
Well,
Intelligent.
there's that too, because this is an intelligent coffee, an intelligent brand.
That's right.
As it
There you
says
go.
on the side of the package, at Intelligentsia, we believe coffee is a culinary experience.
And I agree wholeheartedly, and I believe you do too.
I do, and that's exactly what Waldo Lydecker in Laura would
Mhm.
say. As he
Mhm.
sips and writes his columns, he would be
He's right.
sipping coffee and writing his acid tongued
Absolutely.
commentary.
With his what does he call his pen? A goose quill dipped in poison
Oh,
or something like
I think I wrote that down because I
Yes.
I wanted to write my favorite quotes. Yeah, I don't use a pen. I write with a goose quill dipped in venom.
Venom. That was it.
And the way he is very sardonic and very sarcastic at times, but overall witty, it would definitely go over the heads of your average Joe, and especially the detective who's kind of your average Joe. He didn't quite get all of it, but he knew how to get under Lydecker's skin with his little game that he played with the little metal balls. He like knew how to like just really go after him because he was just like, oh,
It's God, it was so
beneath
yeah.
him.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you start with where we're gonna start with this, but it's so interesting. I've seen this film dozens of times, literally dozens of times. It's one of my all-time favorite noir films. But looking at it when I know that we're going to discuss something, I see different things every time, and seen it twice since we decided to watch it. So go ahead, because it, wow, the characters. I mean,
Exactly. So let's hop into Laura. This was in 1944. I'll just give a little bit of a plot summary for those who
yeah.
may not have seen this. So
Mhm.
Detective Mark McPherson is investigating the murder of Laura Hunt, a successful advertising executive who's found shot in her apartment doorway. The suspects he interviews are obsessive columnist Waldo Lydecker, played by Clifton Webb, dashing gigolo Shelby Carpenter, played by a very young Vincent Price, and desperate aunt Anne Treadwell, who's played by the wonderful Judith Anderson, who many cinephiles will know from Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca as Mrs. Danvers, and also in Elizabeth Taylor's Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. She
That's
played
right.
Big Mama in that.
Yep.
So she has some fun moments in this. The detective becomes increasingly fixated on the haunting portrait of Laura hanging in the apartment. And then out of nowhere, Laura walks in through the door alive, turning the entire investigation on its head.
That's
So
it.
this is extremely of that time period with the film noir. A lot of film noir films were coming out. These are very
Mhm.
dark, detective, hard-boiled crime thrillers with a hint of romantic nature to it. That overall romance feeling that comes around this hard-boiled crime drama that's unfolding.
Mhm.
You have both Clifton Webb and the wonderful Jean Tierney, who plays the title role of Laura.
Mhm.
Jean Tierney was a main staple in the 40s. Many people may know her from The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, and also her Oscar nominated film Leave Her to Heaven, in which case she plays a very intense woman. I'll have you maybe someday we'll take a look at that film on this podcast. But if you haven't seen Leave Her to Heaven, you thank me after you watch it.
Mhm.
Clifton Webb was nominated for an Oscar in supporting role for Laura. Jean Tierney should have been nominated for this particular role because she's so interesting to watch. She could just throw this role away, but she has so many underlying depths to her in this performance that you
Mhm.
don't know for sure what's real, the truth, what she's lying about, who she manipulating. Is she manipulating? So
Truly.
she has a really tough role, but she performs it to the hilt. And then you
Yeah.
have Clifton Webb playing the acid-tongued Waldo Lydecker, and anytime he's in the room, he's very much like, I can't stand these idiots any longer. I must leave. And he takes a shine to
I'll run
Laura,
amok.
so he wants to turn Laura into this protege of high class and intellect.
It's very much the
He
Pygmalion story.
exactly,
Yeah.
but very dark Pygmalion, because
Extremely dark.
there's a lot of
Extreme.
obsession that is in this film from all the
Yes.
characters,
Yeah.
including the detective. Everyone is obsessed with each other in this, where you have
Yeah.
Clifton Webb's character obsessed with Laura. You
Yes.
have Vincent Price's character is obsessed and wants to marry Laura. The aunt
Right.
is obsessed with Laura because she is in charge of the finances and the trust. And then you have the
And she's
detective who
also
start
right, and also the aunt is obsessed with,
Vincent
uh,
Price's character.
Vincent Price's character, which is a whole other weird triangle. I mean, I've seen it more clearly this time than I ever saw before, and it's so weird. Everyone kind of they're just taking advantage of each other.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just
they're all manipulating each other one by
totally.
one, and so
Yeah.
it's just fascinating to watch this as you say, the triangle. Well, actually, it's more. You've
There are
got
more triangles,
Laura, and
several.
Laura's sort of in the middle between Clifton Webb, Dana Andrews,
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price, and Judith Anderson. So she's sort of around these people who are just circling her like vultures, as it were. But then you've
Yeah,
got Laura and her character, as I was saying before, where it's like, I think she's having a really fun time just like pulling the strings out of everybody.
me too. And I didn't always feel that way, but I do now, and it it's just an interesting study in psychology, because it's not like in the typical film noir, right? You have a femme fatale who is usually driving the evil. And she's not
Right.
that way exactly, but there's something going on.
Exactly. And you see that
Yeah.
happen at the beginning when Waldo Lydecker is talking to the detective about her first arriving in his life, where she's trying to
Mm,
get him to endorse a pen that she's trying to get so that way she can get ahead in her advertising career. And he's just like, ugh, I don't use a pen, I use a quill. Go away, you
right.
peasant, as it were.
Right.
But she's so adamant, and she's intelligent, and
And sincere.
also she's got that sincere, she's got the confidence too to continue to be like, oh, but once you take a look at this, it's like she's relentless in trying to get him to do it. And that's what sort of pulls in Waldo Lydecker, and now he's fascinated. It's all about this like fascination and obsession about who is this person. And
Mm-hmm.
so then he starts to take her under his wing, and she becomes this full-fledged executive in a advertising world,
Mm-hmm.
and she now knows everybody. They all know her. But that's when things start to get a little tricky when you have the gigolo Shelby comes in. That's Vincent Price's character, and he starts to woo her, and she starts to play with him a little more, leaving Clifton Webb
Yeah.
out of the dark.
Yeah. That's where it kind of that's where it started to turn strange to me. So she suddenly has gone from basically the mailroom in this advertising agency, but thanks to Lydecker is now pretty much one of the head honchos in the same advertising agency. She takes Lydecker to a party at her aunt's house. Okay. Her aunt is clearly hooked up with Shelby and has a cigarette with him on the balcony, offers him a job, and then a romance starts to bloom. What the hell?
Right, exactly. Now it's like, what is
How
she up
mean.
to with that? Like
Her
now
poor
she's pulling strings to get him,
aunt.
maybe because he's younger and
Yeah,
he's attractive, and
yeah,
compared to Clifton Webb, who's very handsome and debonair looking, but he's older. He's more of a
yeah,
father figure than
yeah,
anything. So Laura isn't in love with him in that way. I think she
right.
loves his spirit and what he projects,
Mm-hmm.
and his
Mm-hmm.
confidence and his way of just telling it like it is. And she's
Mm-hmm.
learning from that, but she needs someone younger, her age. And that's where Shelby is. But she gets, I think, into it a little too much because he's always needing money, always trying
He's a
to,
ne'er-do-well. He's a
yeah.
ne'er-do-well. He
And
truly is a gigolo ne'er-do-well that's hooked up with her aunt. What the
and the aunt
hell?
doesn't seem to care because she's older too, and now she's getting affection from the younger man. And so
Right.
she's feeling, and she's got the money to be
Yeah.
able to give him what he wants. But again, there's that level between, I think, the age levels with between the two of them. Laura and Shelby are the same age, and I think
Mm-hmm.
um, Lydecker and the aunt Anne are the
Or
same
closer.
age as well. So you've got the mother father figure with the children, and
Mm-hmm.
so now you
Right.
have this
Truly.
like extreme, as I was saying earlier, obsession and mystery
Yeah.
between what is going on with all four, because they're all in the same circles. Clifton
Right.
Webb despises Shelby. Shelby despises, um, but I don't think
Lydecker.
understands. I don't think he's as smart and can't understand what Clifton Webb's character is saying, and so you get this like extreme headbutting. But it's like it's wasted on Waldo Lydecker's character, because he's like, you're just a fool. I can talk to Laura. I can talk to the aunt because we can all change
Yeah.
barbs with each other,
Right.
and almost like a tennis match back and forth between the two, and can't do
Absolutely.
that with Shelby. But he's becoming the intruder of the relationship and causing problems in the long run.
Huge problems for both Lydecker and Anne, the aunt. But what was interesting to me too is there seemed to be, and maybe it was just because it was like they were of a society, of a certain class, it seemed like the aunt and Lydecker had a past. I'm not saying it was a romantic past, but they had crossed paths or been in the same kind of social circles because she in the beginning is snippy with him, like, oh, shut up, just be quiet, you just
Yep.
that kind of thing. And so it's like, oh, there's a long past there. And
Yeah, because we
I
don't really
was
get to
for
know
Laura.
Anne's background of where she came from. Maybe because of Waldo's paper that he writes for, he might have written something about her, or maybe she is one of those who is like a gigolo herself, where she goes after young men. Um,
Cougar.
I mean, that's
I
kind
mean,
of what
really,
she is
it
in
is.
this movie because and good
Yeah,
for her. I mean, she's got the money, she's got the power, she can get what she wants
yeah,
out of it. So maybe there's something
yeah.
in the past that went along with that you kind of
I'm
get
wondering
from with Judith Anderson's performance. You do get this mysterious, like, who is she? Like, I wish we could get a
right,
little bit more about what's going on with her. But
or
you
her
kind of
background.
can see with the mannerisms that she has. She's always fidgety. She's very nervous, especially when
Mhm.
Waldo Lydecker's around.
She
And now
drinks
she
a
has to
lot.
deal with him more now that her niece is in the picture with Waldo Lydecker, and so now she's having to deal with everything else on top of
Eh,
that. So I can only imagine. And you do see how she always has to have a cigarette because that calms her down, or drink calms
a
her
drink,
down. And
a drink,
anytime someone's messing up her mood, it's like
right.
all three of them, the three other characters, Laura, Waldo, and Shelby, it's just making her. I'm surprised she doesn't have a breakdown, which I think she kind of
Kinda
does
does. She kinda
towards the
does,
end
actually.
there.
Yeah, she
And I
does. She
and
sort of
that's when
does.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, she's just like, she just wants to have like a regular, like, oh, let's just go have some fun and we'll just use the money and just have fun, enjoy ourselves. But then now
Yeah.
it's everything's all like, ugh, messed up
Well,
for
and
her. And
basically, it's because Laura interjected herself. I mean, when they show up, Lydecker and Laura show up at the party, this is what this woman does. Anne is a society lady that shows, throws these parties, and now, oh, this is my new beau. Met him in Kentucky or whatever, and Lydecker makes a snide, comment, and Laura laughs. But what kind of relationship would suddenly? Why would you steal your aunt? I mean, your aunt's boyfriend. I know he's younger, but that's just
and
nasty.
and who knows what locking horns that niece and aunt had with each other, especially now that
Right?
Laura has become this successful businesswoman, and now she's
Right.
even more, can put her nose up higher than her aunt, and so that doesn't bode well, I'm sure, with
No.
that character. So but
No.
that's another way of Laura being like pulling the strings again, like, I can get under your skin and I'm going to cause you to have problems, and I'm going to take your bow away from you, but I'm going to manipulate the bow to be under my wing, but then I'm going to push him away and say, I'm not going to marry you. Oh, but I will marry you. And there's
That was so wild. I
that's when I
know.
get a little, the poor detective Dana Andrews' character is trying to figure out, first off, like, who killed Laura, because we all expect that she has died.
Died.
And then when she
Mhm.
does return, she's like causing confusion for him, because then she starts pulling his string and he becomes obsessed with Laura.
And he becomes obsessed actually before, which was
Right.
interesting, before she even comes back, which is why Lydecker was saying, you're really losing your mind here. You're in love with a portrait and, you're basically in love with a corpse. So what the hell is the matter with you? Because they're starting to kind of,
And now let's jump into that, the portrait. Now, the portrait is a very important
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
piece of this puzzle, because the portrait is almost constantly, when you're in Laura's apartment, is in some section of the camera. It's either looking
Yes,
down on you, in the mirror, staring back at you. Like, no matter where you're moving in the apartment, there's the picture
yeah,
of Laura
ever
just
present.
posed and just,
Yeah,
yes, ever present, and just still pulling the strings with just a portrait.
just
And as we come to find out, the person she posed for was also in love with her, and Waldo
that was the
Lydecker
first. Yes.
trashed
Put
him
a
in the papers. And so
yeah.
we know that's when we start to see Lydecker's other side of what he's capable of doing and what he can
Mhm.
do. As soon as you start watching it, no matter, as soon as you're in that apartment, you see the portrait and it's another character just watching and doesn't make any
Mhm.
comments. It doesn't say anything. It's just staring at seeing what's going on.
Very, strategically placed over the mantle in the, focal point of the room.
Right.
And I saw Jean Tierney, I saw an interview with her, when she was much, much older, And of course, one of the first, I think it was like Mike Douglas or a very old show. And he said, well, what was that portrait? Did you sit for that portrait? And she said, no, that was a photograph that they turned into
Wow.
a portrait. And I thought that was really interesting. They took a photo of me and then just made it look very
Like
naturalistic
a
and like
piece of art like that.
yes. And it was. It really was.
Exactly. Um,
Yeah,
and as the audience, you can't help but follow it wherever it goes. No matter what's happening
truly.
in the discussions, you're still like, oh, this photo is just right there, almost eavesdropping
Like
on
it's like the
everything.
eyes falling. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. It does kind of, it does in a way.
So McPherson, Dana Andrews, is becoming more and more obsessed with this woman and spending time in her apartment and going through her letters, her diaries, her drawers. That was her closets,
Right.
trying to piece this together and drinking her liquor and then falling in love almost literally with a ghost. So he thinks.
Exactly. He's become acquainted with her through means of writings, what she
Mhm.
has in the apartment. That all tells you about the character of Laura for him,
Mhm.
and he's the
Mhm.
only one who's allowed to actually see that personal perspective.
Mhm.
So now it's
Mhm.
like when she returns and she's like, "You read my letters. These were personal." It's like, well, we thought you were dead, and when you're dead you don't have any quote rights anymore to
Right.
your property, if it's
Mhm.
especially if it's a murder investigation, which it was. um
Mhm.
and so, but he's still like, he's a very hard-boiled character, can't quite let her pull the string completely. He's still not quite sure about this woman, even though he's obsessed and kind of in love with her. He's still got that
Yeah.
hard-boiled, I can't really trust you because you're not telling me the truth. And I think he can see through her in a way that others can't. And that's probably because
Mhm.
of his profession and what he's been
Mhm.
through previously. And as in a lot of film noir, he drinks a lot to cope with what's going on. And that happens with a lot of film noir detectives, or Sam Spade and
Yep.
in The Maltese Falcon. They're always constantly looking over their shoulders and not quite trustworthy of anyone who comes in their path. And that goes the
Mhm.
same for Laura. And you can see Laura trying to get that string to pull. And he doesn't quite,
Yeah.
she's not able to. And that fascinates her, I think, as well, when they finally
Mhm.
meet each other. And so she starts playing around with
Mhm.
him. He starts playing in her head. And
Yeah. Well, the first scene where I saw it the most was when he comes back the next morning, and he's pissed because she said, "I'm not going. I'm not leaving. Remember? Don't go anywhere because now that we know you're alive, you can't leave." And of course, she calls Shelby, and I think she leaves. Um, and he comes back knowing that because they've got the phones tapped in the
right,
basement or something.
right.
And she he comes back the next morning with a bag of groceries, and she's like, and he goes, "Well, I know you went out and you didn't get groceries, so I'm bringing it here." And he's very cold. And she's like,
Yep.
she even mentions this, like, "Are you always like this in the morning?" But she's suddenly warming up to him. And that's interesting too, because it's like, you just played the guy, you lied to him. And then later she said, and I wish I had written this down because it's one of my favorite lines. She goes, "I never have been and I never will be," something to the effect of, "told what to do. I will always do what I want to do when I want to do it, and that's just the way it is," basically.
Oh, I think I have it because I think it was one of my favorite quotes too.
Okay, yeah.
Because I wrote down a couple of quotes that really like stood out to me. "You forced me to give you my word. I never have been, and I never will be bound by anything I don't do of my own free will." And I was
That
like,
was it.
that's Laura to a T right there.
That's
I
it.
mean,
That's her.
she'll get anything she wants as long as she has that will of doing it for herself. Nobody else is going to
That's
give it to her, do it for her, and tell her what to do. Not
that's
even
right.
Waldo Lydecker, because
No.
they would butt heads a lot too with how they both
Absolutely.
see the world. And
Mhm.
so she's
And
definitely
Tierney,
of that.
she just delivered it so simply and so beautifully, but with so much depth that both of us remember it so much because it was striking. Anyone else would you oh, okay.
Well,
But it
and
was
just
like,
her
"Wow,
facial expression and her eyes just stare like piercing into
piercing."
his psyche, as it were. And she's just like, don't go there. I'm telling you, this is what I do. you may tell me what to do, but I'm not going to do it unless it's of my own free will.
I love it.
And that's a very, again, as I like on this podcast, very strong, independent women who can fight against the societal norms. And of course the detective is of that nature of like, the woman probably stays at home and does the dishes and cooks and cleans, and here's this executive
Mhm.
woman, proud and fighting right back, and it's like, no, you don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm sure
Yeah,
in
the
his mind he's
well,
like, no wonder you were shot.
you
The way you act.
kind of wonder because he's like saying, "Can you make?" Didn't he say something like, "Can you make breakfast?" or something? He was like, it was totally male chauvinist right
Yeah,
when he walks in. Brings
yeah.
groceries. Here, make some breakfast. Can you make
And she's
coffee?
like, I can
Eh.
make breakfast. But then she's got the maid who comes in,
Yeah, right,
and the
of course,
maid is quite
really.
a fun
Oh,
character
she's
because she
great.
doesn't know
I
that
love
she's alive, and all of a sudden the maid's like, ah!
her.
And what
Poor
does she say?
Bessie.
She goes, can you make coffee? I
Can
think
you
we'll all need some coffee.
and Bessie's like, with
And
her
she's like,
hat, she's like,
okay,
"What the oh,
okay.
okay." Yeah, that's a fun character. The same thing too, it's interesting, and I think it's af no, well, it's must be after that, I can't remember because it's when Laura has already taken up with Shelby, and it's pissing Lydecker off, but she, goes to Lydecker's, and he's telling her basically, "This guy's a bounder and awful, and here, let me give you some." I hired a detective to show you what kind of person this, and instead of listening, which she ultimately does, but, she basically defends him,
Right.
and there is a question of why. I mean, there's nothing yes, he's attractive, but there's nothing he's not bright. There's nothing overtly attractive about this guy, which made me start to think, is she just doing this to get at her aunt, or is she just, like, impulsive? I don't
Maybe
know.
get what you were just saying was just striking me as like maybe she's saying this to get under Lydecker's skin because she knows how he feels about her. And so this way, now she's like, okay, you're trying to do this to me. Well, I'm going to defend him even more now that you've crossed my line of my free will. Like now I don't have free will anymore of knowing about the person who I'm seeing, and I can't find that
Right.
out for myself.
Right, right, and she and he keeps going on, and she at one point, she says to him, "I'm closer to despising you than I ever thought I would be," and that was powerful, and then she finally softens when he pulls out the cigarette case that Shelby is such a snake. Laura gives Shelby a beautiful, expensive cigarette case for his birthday. Shelby gives it to a model, and the model pawns it, and Lydecker gets it.
Exactly.
Just to prove to her what a shit he is. I mean,
Right.
excuse my French, but, you know.
No, it's true. I mean, and again, Jean gives a really. She doesn't have to say anything. It's just the look she gives at the cigarette case and then at Lydecker, knowing full well, like, oh gosh, he's right, but I can't admit that he's right. But I'm just going to just really like give this look of piercing, like I don't like you for doing this now, but I also kind of thank you as well. Now she knows that like
Yeah,
this case that I got was given to another woman, which then
yeah,
adds another element to it because we come to find out the woman who was shot is the model who was meeting Shelby at Laura's apartment.
nice guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and Laura hired her for
For
actually
work.
hired her for a
Yeah.
campaign for work.
And
Um, yeah, and then she doesn't believe it and said and she tries to even this that drove me crazy because 'cause I'm thinking this strong woman is like, "No, I'll get him on the phone." Doesn't he's not home. "I'll call my aunt." They're not and he says they're not gonna answer, but they're there. "No, they're not. No, they're not." You know, until they go, and of course they're there.
yep.
And she throws the cigarette case down, they leave, and then they're back together.
Yeah, because she would say to the detective, like, "I'm not marrying him. Yes, I am marrying him. No, I'm not marrying him." And I'm like, that's. I think perhaps Laura's starting to unravel a little bit more, and her
Yeah,
her
maybe
whole
so.
like strong nature is kind of being unraveled, and now she's having the strings pulled against her, and she doesn't like that at all, and it's making her like, "Oh gosh, my life is just being upended because of this mess." And of
Right,
course, now that the model is the one that was discovered to be killed in her apartment, she's now a suspect because she was away and says that the radio didn't work. But we find out the radio did work, and that
Mm-hmm.
Shelby did go up to visit her because she did call
Yeah.
people and said, "Don't
Yeah.
tell them I've gone up away for the weekend." So there's a lot
Right.
of like red herrings of like, what is up with this with her
And she
scheme?
knew that this Diane Redfern, gotta love that name, the
Right,
model, was madly in love with Shelby. And and I don't know that she knew that they were carrying on until Lydecker told her, but she knew something was up because she was like, "No, I had lunch with her and I know that Shelby it means nothing to Shelby." But so she consistently, continually defends him, even when the evidence is right in front of her face.
right.
And
I
she
guess
goes
that
to
just that shows
yeah,
the human nature of her character too. Like she is a human being
flaws.
after all.
Yeah, the
Um,
flaws.
Yep, all the flaws that she pretended not to have because she knew everything and was going to be always right, free will and all that. But now she's come to terms with, oh gosh, I was
Yeah,
wrong, or but I can't admit I'm wrong either because she's a high-end executive who's very strong, independent, and you
right.
see that between her and the detective as well. Like she's like not really giving him anything to go off of, and he's getting upset because he's not getting anywhere in the case, but still has that obsession and love for Laura.
Right. Really obsession. It is obsession and infatuation.
Right.
And then that scene where the morning where Bessie's back making breakfast and she's saying, "Well, I don't do anything that's not of my free will." So Shelby shows up and suddenly the detective goes, "Wait a minute. So it's on again?" Because he brings her a
Right.
flower. It's like, "Hello, I just wanted to say hi to my fiance." And it's like, "What is happening?" And then Lydecker shows up, who doesn't know that Laura is alive.
Right. That's that great moment where he just collapses of like I've seen a ghost almost,
That was
and
great.
a very emotional moment there, because he has to be taken out to calm himself, and then he's
Literally
like, oh my
picked up.
gosh.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then you see also, I mean, I think Laura still has a
Mm.
lot of feelings for Lydecker because she's like,
Yeah.
this was mean. Why didn't you tell him I was alive?
Mm.
Why make him go through that? And I get the detective wants to see like everyone's reaction to this
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
she was the one who was supposed to be murdered. So like, how are people going to react to it?
Mhm.
And yeah, it's
Yeah.
this very powerful moment because that's everyone's kind of coming to the one spot, and then everything just leads up to the final climax of the movie after that, which is
Well, before we get there, though, there's one scene that because Lydecker, when he finally comes to, decides to invite a whole bunch of friends over to have that party, that final
right,
party, and her aunt is there. And one of my favorite scenes in that, or sub scene in that big scene, is when the aunt and she meet in the bathroom. And the aunt, brilliantly played, of course, she's a brilliant actress, basically just says, "This McPherson likes you. Do you know that?" Well, he's in love with you. And let me just tell you, Shelby is better for me. And Laura goes, "Why?" Well, I can afford him. I understand him because we're not nice people.
right,
Neither one of us are. And we understand each other, and I can take care of him. And I know that Shelby could never, commit a murder. Um, and she said something, "Oh, we're a lot alike." And Laura looks at her and she said, "No, dear, I didn't do it, but I thought about it."
right.
That was chilling. It was like, okay, so you actually thought about killing your own niece over this guy.
I mean, that's another, that love and obsession really can, and that's the main theme of this movie is about obsession and
Mhm.
what people's lengths will go
Yep.
to have it, to keep it. And it's very fascinating that she did say about like we're not nice people, and I'm sitting there thinking like
Nobody is.
group nobody in this group of people are nice people. Waldo Lydecker's not very nice. Even Laura is not very nice. The detective's not very nice. I mean, it's you're almost going, well, duh, we're all awful human beings here.
Yeah, no, exactly. I thought the same thing. It was like, yeah. But when you say something like, "I thought about it,"
Now it's right in your face. It's like I did think about it, and then that really gets you on your nerve too.
Yeah, I really thought about killing you, but I didn't.
Again, brilliant performance by Judith Anderson. She was so
Mm,
subtle with that moment. It doesn't. She never goes
mm,
over the top with any of her moments. She's all much like Jean Tierney's character
yeah,
portrayal too. They're both very grounded women
they
and
are.
not having to go into hysterics about anything. Even
No,
when Judith
mhm,
Anderson's character feels like she's losing Shelby, she doesn't go intensely over the top with like, you must stay with me. She's still playing
yeah.
it kind of cool and casual and just watching what's going on.
Yeah, and that's another part of that scene that I love when she goes up to him and go, "I haven't seen you," and he goes, "Aren't you being nasty?" She says something nasty about, "It's not my your homecoming," or something, and he said, "Aren't you being nasty?" He goes, "Well, yes, I feel nasty when I don't see you." So there's something going on with them, and then he leaves her so coldly and said, "Here's a drink," but it's like, "Well, I can take care of you. I can get, legal help. I can pay for it." And he goes, "No, Laura needs me," and just walks away. And it was
Yep.
just so cold, and she's just it was brilliantly played, as you say. She just stands there just
But I think
staring.
she also kind of feels like he'll come back. He'll be back. Like she knows that he'll be back.
She knows him.
Yeah,
She
he'll be
knows
back. Once he gets tired of one person, he'll come. She's sort of like the grounded pole
him.
that he's
Mhm,
just going to
mhm.
keep coming back to after he splits off. And that's why she understands him and can take care of him and understands what she can do to keep him. And that I think
And
also
like,
Laura kind of understands that as well. It's like, ooh, you're a cunning woman, aren't you?
yeah, she does. And she's also becoming infatuated with McPherson herself, Laura,
Right.
at this point. So there is kind of that. And also, Shelby just said something nasty to her that sent her into the bathroom that was like he suspects her. And
Right.
that freaked her out. And she went, at the end of the scene, when McPherson walks around and says, "There's somebody here I got to take," blah, 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 and comes to Laura and they walk out. And Shelby steps up to kind of challenge McPherson. McPherson turns around and slugs him in the stomach. And Anne comes to his rescue and he sits there like a little boy and holds onto her hand and goes, "Anne." Like,
Yep. Yep.
it was like, "Save me."
Yep.
It was so wild. Yeah.
Yep, he's a puppy. He's a lost puppy. You can't figure him out what he wants or thinks he knows what
Hmm.
he wants, but isn't up to the task of getting what he wants without,
Exactly.
fear and like, oh gosh, I can't handle this.
I know exactly. He's totally helpless. He's totally helpless.
Exactly. Well, before we wrap up the film, let's just talk a
Mhm.
little bit about, since we're celebrating Clifton Webb, let's talk a little bit about his performance because he just arrives in Hollywood and gives this masterful Oscar nominated performance.
Mhm.
And his presence is felt throughout the entire movie. He's not always in every scene, but he gives one of those performances, much like this year when we had the movie Weapons with Amy Madigan's characters in sort of a short period of the film, but you feel her presence throughout
I
the
agree.
entirety of the movie. It's the same with Clifton Webb's performance, where he comes and goes. He's sort of the narrator of the piece, but even when he's not around, you know that when is he going to appear or what's the force going
Yeah.
on, because Laura is still
Yeah.
a part of Waldo Lyndecker's life, and
Yeah.
but Clifton
So,
Webb just gives
ah,
this great performance.
he is. He's strong. He's um, nuanced. He's subtle and not subtle in some ways, which is perfect for Lydecker. But it's interesting. It's called Laura, and it is Laura's story. But I find myself thinking it's really Lydecker's movie.
And well, he's the one we start the film with. He's saying, this is the first time this happened, and I'm going to tell you the story. And even when he does the flashbacks, it's him talking about the flashbacks. It's never anyone
Mm-hmm.
else's flashbacks. It's about what he remembers seeing.
He
Um,
drives it. He drives it, and
exa-
Laura wouldn't be the
exactly,
Laura we have without Lydecker.
exactly. He's the one who actually signed the endorsement and
He molded her
started
and then
everything
molded
rolling because of that.
and then changed her hair, changed her did everything. He set her on her way. It really is Pygmalion. So
Yeah.
he molded her and then it was like, I created you and I
What have I
can
created?
uncreate you.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's kind
And
of
I
like
can uncreate
we'll
you.
go back to kind of like Frankenstein too. I've created a monster here and I've got to stop this
That's right.
somehow.
That's right. Yep. Yep. If I
um,
can't have you, no one
Nobody
is.
can. And spoiler
Nobody can.
alert,
Yes.
spoiler
Yeah.
alert, uh, we find out that it was Lydecker who did the shot originally, thinking it was Laura.
Right.
and he comes back pretending to leave and then comes back to try to shoot Laura again because she's turned him away and cast him off. And now it's like if I can't have you, nobody can have you. And we
Mhm.
have this wonderful, as Lydecker is all about antiques and history, and he has all these wonderful pieces of art and antiques from past. And there's this clock that features in both Lydecker's apartment and Laura's apartment, and it's like the piece de resistance
Mhm.
of the apartments. And there just happens to be a hidden compartment, which is where the gun has been the entire time. And
Yeah.
you see his obsession comes to a boil at that point when he pulls out and he knows that the detective has removed bullets and he has his own
Yeah.
bullets ready to go. Like he's one step ahead of the detective almost.
Always. Always. But something you said made me think, going back to Clifton Webb's performance, is what I meant by the nuanced is also he's so versatile in the way that, yes, he plays this kind of cynical, gonna sharp-tongued guy, but there is something underneath him, and you see it in his face when they're like having their dinners together, when life was good, when Laura and he would spend more time together. And even at the very end, when he was sort of trying to kind of plead with her to say, come on, let's, we can forget all this and go back. There was a softness in him. And
Right.
that was really a brilliant choice on his part. He was so human, he was really loved her. He really did.
The final moments of the movie, we see him being, "Forgive me, Laura. I love you, Laura," and that's
Yeah.
the end of the movie. It's like it begins and ends with Lydecker, and
Yeah.
his feelings never really changed, even though he was obsessed with her. I think he did love her in his own
Mhm.
way, that she
Mm.
just didn't
He
quite
did.
reciprocate, and the way
He
that. Um,
Right.
but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Laura is such a good film, and
I never
directed
tire
by
of
Otto Preminger, who is no stranger to these noir-esque
no.
films because he did The Man with the Golden Arm, which is a very
Yes.
hard film to watch with Frank Sinatra as a junkie who is a
Yeah.
heroin addict. And it's a very,
Right.
not something you'd see in the 50s very often, at that type of portrayal. And then Anatomy of a Murder with Jimmy Stewart is
Mhm.
also another kind of noir film, the gorgeous black
Mhm.
and white
Mm.
textures that he uses.
Mhm.
And Otto Preminger was nominated for Best Director for this, and no surprise there.
Was this his first film? Because I know he started on this film as the producer and not the director originally, and
Right.
director was fired, but I don't know if this was like his
I
debut
don't
film.
think it was his
Okay.
debut. I think he'd been around before.
Okay. It makes sense that he would, but
This is just one of his more well-known pieces, and
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
because it was
For sure.
I think his name was Ruben Mamoulian, who had been around,
Mhm.
a fixture in Hollywood as well, directing a lot of the 30s and 40s films.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he just didn't jive with the characters and the actors and the
The
writer,
story.
and so he was gone.
Right.
He also didn't want Clifton Webb to be there. He didn't want Clifton Webb to Ruben, the original director, didn't want him to be there because something was off about him. But Otto Preminger was like, no, we've got to keep him.
That's
And
what
I
we
mean, I
need.
can't even imagine
Yeah.
anyone else playing this character.
I can't either.
To be
I can't
honest,
either.
I,
I can't
I
either.
mean it, because somebody can
And they
go
didn't even
as
want
we
they didn't want her either. They didn't
exactly.
want they wanted Jennifer Jones,
Yes,
and
I saw that.
somebody
And
else
Hedy
turned it
Lamarr was the
down.
other
Yeah,
one.
Eddie Lamar.
Now, see, when I saw that, because Hedy Lamarr, I could kind of see because she does have the
Me
eyes
too.
and that feel,
Me
but
too.
she could. I don't think she could be very. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I haven't
She
seen
was
too many
terrific.
Hedy Lamarr films, but she would
Mhm.
be the one. Jennifer Jones, no, I
I
can't see
don't
her
get
playing
that
that
at all.
that
Uh-uh.
nuanced of a character and that
Mm-mm.
feel.
Mm-mm.
It's like you
No
wouldn't
way.
see someone like Betty Davis playing that type of character too, because she would be too over the top with it.
I
Um,
agree. I agree.
but Hedy
Although
Lamarr, possibly,
interesting.
just because of her
I
look,
think so.
she could play
Mhm.
that
She
that
was a good actress. Yeah.
yes.
She was a really good actress.
But I mean, again, just Jean. I don't know anyone else who could portray that type of a character
I
in that way. Because again, you're
mhm.
sitting there going like, is she? Isn't she? What's she up to? What's she not up to? Like you're just going on and on with her performance. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's Laura, and I
Yeah.
highly recommend if you love especially thrillers and noir films. This is luscious black and white, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. The costumes are amazing. The feel,
Beautiful.
it's still very modern in feeling as well.
Mhm.
You don't
I
really
agree.
feel that it's an old film at
Mm-mm,
all when you're watching it, which is great.
not at
Um,
all. And the pacing, you will be just absolutely swept up in it.
I want people to see this movie because it could easily fade away, and it's just like a very important also film for 20th Century Fox as well,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
it and also this is what launched Clifton Webb's career because everyone was like, "Who is this person? He's so interesting to watch," and he
This
would then go
after
on.
years of being on Broadway, doing amazing work, not only as a singer and dancer like you mentioned, but he did a lot of Noel Coward pieces, he did a lot of really high, visibility plays on Broadway, and he was in his mid-50s when he did Laura, so it was like they're
Yep,
thinking, "Where did this guy come from?" It's like, he's been working for a long time, you know?
exactly.
Not not an overnight success. He's been around.
Exactly, and Clifton would then go on to do The Razor's Edge, which I have not seen, but I know it's a
Neither have
very
I, and I
similar.
wanna see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have not seen The Razor's Edge yet, but I know it's kind of that. It's a similar type of character, very witty and
Mhm,
sardonic, and
mhm,
again, he was nominated for that film as well. And
mhm.
then we all knew him
Gotta
to
see
be a
that.
very good dramatic actor, and now we're transitioning into our second film, which is totally different from Laura. We've come to find out that Clifton
So
Webb
much
has
fun.
a comedic side to him, and we have this absolutely
He could do it all.
hilarious movie called Sitting Pretty, and and
Oh,
it's quite
and I'm
a
so glad you recommended it because I had never seen it before, and I've watched it 3 times since you mentioned it, and it is hilarious.
yeah. I remember coming across the film years ago when I saw. I think it was the VHS cover of it, and it was sort of like Clifton Webb with three boys, young kids, hanging on him like a jungle gym, and him just like open his mouth and like, "Oh my god," with his big rolling of the eyes and like, "Help me."
Mhm.
And so I was like, "What is this movie?" Because I had seen originally my first movie I saw of Clifton Webb was 1950s version of Titanic with Barbara Stanwyck, which is also
Oh,
very good.
right. That's a
Yeah,
great film.
which is
Oh,
also
yeah.
very good, and he plays a more dramatic role in that as well.
Mhm.
That was
Mhm.
the first time I came across him, and that's when I started reading about what he did and
Mhm.
the films that he was about, and that's where I came across
Mhm.
Sitting Pretty. And I always love to find a fun, witty, charming comedy. And this film also, besides Clifton Webb, has Maureen O'Hara, who many will know from Miracle on 34th Street.
Love
She
her.
always played the Quiet Man with John Wayne. She was in.
Yes.
She's a very
Yes.
lovely, another underrated actress, I might say, because she never
I
quite got
agree.
her. I don't think she got her
I agree.
due, as it were. Oh,
Not really,
probably a lot of people will also know her from The Parent Trap with Haley Mills. She plays the mother
of
in
course.
that. So, um,
Yeah,
but
I
in
had
here she
notes
plays
on
the
that.
mother, weary mother of three boys. Her husband
Yeah,
is a Mr. King is a lawyer and is away all the time, and she keeps having trouble
never
with housekeepers to help out, and they all just as with these comedies go, they just leave because they can't handle these maniac boys and the dog, and they
and
have
the
because they
dog,
also have on top
Henry.
of they on top of the three young boys, they have this giant Great Dane of a dog that just likes to jump up on
Jump
people,
on
and so
people.
it's a very
Mhm.
unruly household. And uh, Mrs. King decides she's going to put in an advertisement to find another housekeeper to come in, and gets a response from Lynn Belvedere. And she's like,
Mhm.
"This woman sounds wonderful. She sounds amazing." They think, "Oh, we'll have her come in." And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it is Clifton Webb as Lynn Belvedere. And
Right.
Lynn Belvedere is a genius and a philosopher. And he can do anything,
Everything.
everything, no matter what
Everything.
you throw at him. And the king's kind of looking like, "But can you handle children?" And he's like, "I've handled children from all ages of life." And
Right.
and
I can I he does everything. He does everything. You know what? This is so funny because when I watched it again this morning, I had to look this up. The first maid that quits, I thought, "God, this woman looks familiar." And then I realized that she looks like Witch Hazel. Remember from the Warner Brothers
oh,
cartoons?
She does.
And
She
then
does kind
and
of.
you gotta and then when Mr. Belvedere Tracy, who's played by Maureen O'Hara, says, "Well, what is exactly do you do, Mr. Belvedere?" And he said, "I'm a genius." And the way he said it, I went, Jesus, that's Wile E. Coyote.
Right.
So, and
It does have that.
it does. I'm a super genius. And the way he talks, he's
Yeah,
very,
he's like, "Madam, I'm a genius." It's like just
that's I'm
so
a
matter of
genius.
fact about it. It's like you can't argue with me after I say this. No matter what he says, it's like you can't argue with him. And so he takes it upon himself as the live-in babysitter to take control of the household and teach the children how to
He does.
behave, especially the baby who's like probably 2 years old in this, I would say.
Maybe.
And there's a moment where they're all sitting around for breakfast and the baby is just splatting the oatmeal at everybody, and then he's like, stop that, and then you see the husband and the wife go out while she kisses him goodbye before he goes to work, and then suddenly you hear the child screaming, and the Mr. Belvedere's thrown the porridge on top of the child who's crying, and he's like, he will never do it again.
To
now that he
anybody.
now that he knows how unpleasant it is, he will never do it again. And that's his method of child rearing. And of course, it's very much like kind of makes them scratch their head of like, who is this person? Like, how did he do this? And it makes the dog sit still and not jump on people.
Because he also happens to be a dog trainer and into
Right?
child psychology. And actually, the oatmeal on the head thing is actually what got him hired, not fired by the husband. He went, "Oh well, if you can do that,
Right.
we'll give it a try."
Exactly. And so his unusual methods lets him keep his job, but we never know exactly what he's doing because he keeps his room locked, and he's a locksmith, so he changes the locks on them.
Of course he
And
is. Right.
but we never know what's actually going on, and that's making the kings very like curious, and so they try to climb up the tree to see what's going on inside, and you see Mr. Belvedere see all this, and he's sort of giving this like he's like, how dare they, but also how funny this is. I'm gonna catch them in their own trap here. And
Yes.
and you kind of
Wiley
see
again.
yeah, you see as much of a pompous and upstart of a person Belvedere is, he does start to come around a little bit warmer as the film goes on, as he stays with the Tracys.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And even though he's a strict disciplinarian, the kids love him.
Exactly.
They
And
just
I
adore
think
him.
even though he says I hate children immensely,
They love him.
he still gets up in the middle of the night when they're not feeling well, and even though he's
Gives
rolling
them
his eyes, it's like
bath,
he
right?
wants his mother for some reason.
For no reason. Ridiculous.
That's as we're getting a little ahead of ourselves in the plot. The husband's going off on a trip for a few days, leaving her alone with Belvedere. And because it's a small community, everyone's gossiping, seeing everything, asking questions. You have this
Hummingbird
hilarious
Hill.
Hummingbird Hill is the name of the residence area, and you have this sort of an iris breeding neighbor
Yes,
played by
yes.
Richard Hayden,
He's
and his
wonderful.
mother. He lives with his mother, and they're all just asking, gossiping, stealing letters, reading letters that aren't theirs, and like
Boldly,
causing all
boldly
this
doing it.
trouble. Yep,
Yeah.
causing all this trouble, which then leads for so they don't have to deal with the gossip, because it does always come back to the husband's work, and the the boss finds out from his wife about what's going on, and he's like, we're a family business here and we can't have this going on. So the husband starts to get a little on the jealous side of like, is it really true? Is Belvedere really going after my wife? Is my wife being unfaithful? So when he goes off on his trip, she goes over to a friend's house to stay the night, and just to stop all of the gossiping tongues, as it were. But you still, the gossiping happens, things start to go wrong. Everyone is just like, even Belvedere is trying to make things work, but everything just seems to just fall off because of human nature.
That's right.
And then you have both husband and wife fighting each other because they don't want to admit that one of them is wrong, and so they're and you have Belvedere just sort of refereeing it, being like, I'm in Mrs. King's corner right now. You're just you're just being a bumbling fool.
It's right. You know, what does he do? He said something like the husband got frustrated. He goes, "I'm going out to get a drink," and he goes, "Well, drinking is an escape for the mentally uh, less mature." Or something like that. It's just an escape for the mentally less mature. So of
Right.
course you're going to go out and get a drink. It's like he
Yep.
just has these quips coming out.
Oh yeah, well,
Just
he's a
beautifully.
genius, so he can come up with. He's a
Genius.
philosopher too, and there's a
Yes.
moment where they're around the breakfast table, and he's like, "What exactly do you do? Do you just sit up there and think?" And he's like, and he gave my favorite quote of the movie is, "Mr. King, if more people just sat around and thought, the world might not be in the stinking mess that it is." And I'm like, "Oh, how apropos for this
Oh,
time period."
true.
I'm like,
Yeah,
that's something that can be said on and
absolutely.
still have relevance no matter what era you're in." And you're
Exactly.
like, yes,
And I
Mr.
think the
Belvedere,
husband
I
says
get what
something
you're
like,
saying.
yeah, he said, yeah, exactly. He says something. "Yeah, I think you have a point there. Yeah, yeah, you got a point there." Um, but it goes on, this Richard Hayden, Appleton, is Appleton the character's name?
Oh
Somebody Appleton, the
gosh.
guy that lives with his mom.
Yeah, it might be
He's like
Appleton.
the Gladys Kravitz of the neighborhood, for those of you
Right.
who love Bewitched. Always either, I mean, but boldly in front of people, stealing people's mail, handing it back to them when it's been opened and saying, "No, I didn't read it."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Intercepting mail.
Or walking past the husband who is putting out all of the bottles from the night before is like, "Oh, have a party, did you?" And
Because what
um
does this guy do other than they're clearly wealthy, lives with his mom, and he does that. He goes around fertilizing. He has a garden and he fertilizes the flowers.
and he's breeding these irises, so he ends up.
Specialized.
And I had to say, what a nice sort of like parallel between a gossip and somebody who's like going and breeding from other people's gardens to breed his own. It's almost the same as gossiping in one garden, going to another garden and passing it along.
Stealing.
And yes, it was
Mhm.
Appleton, Clarence Appleton.
Clarence Appleton, right. Mhm.
Yep, and the mother is this very in a wheelchair, and she's like, "Wheel me over so I can use my binoculars to see what's going on." Uh, and there
She's
comes a
really
point where, because Mrs. King keeps happening upon uh, Mr. Belvedere when he's out on his day off, they keep running into each other, so people keep seeing, and like, oh, chip 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 chirp 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 chirp, thinking that, oh, they were dancing with each other. Oh, and because there's a hilarious moment where they're at this nice restaurant, and Lynn Belvedere is just having dinner on his own, and Mrs. King and her friend decide, oh, let's be extravagant. We'll just go in here, and Mr. Belvedere asks Mrs. King to dance. He's like, I'm an excellent dancer, and they do this whole cha-cha dance, which of course the cha-cha is a very
I know.
and
Very,
it
yeah,
leads to a very hilarious moment where Mr. Appleton's wheeling his mother, and they both stop,
of
and she
course.
pulls up her little spectacles to like do a little like inspection, and then like, oh, get out of here, come on, let's go.
And that was another thing. Tracy, the mom, goes, "Oh, did you study with Arthur Murray?" And you said something like, "Study with him? I taught Arthur Murray
Right.
what he knows. I taught him how to dance."
Well, and I think I
Oh,
mentioned before that I appreciated that scene more because learning that Clifton Webb was an actual dancer, learned how to, he was in ballet and danced on Broadway, and just watching him, I thought it was just going to be played for laughs because you can just like do anything you want while you're dancing, and it doesn't have to look quote quote good. But as I'm watching a little carefully, I'm like, wow, this he is like really like moving correctly and like really
oh yeah.
doing the cha cha the way it
Yep.
probably should have been. And so
Yep.
it made me appreciate him more in that respect,
Mhm.
because it was more fun to,
And
I
there's
think, watch too, because you were just
it
like, wow,
was.
I couldn't do that.
No, 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 he was definitely very schooled in ballroom dancing as well, but at one point, he's walking through the snow before he runs into, Appleton, who tries to invite him over, and he's like, no."
Yeah.
But the way he's walking, because I took ballet for years and I can spot a dancer a mile away, and you had mentioned that, he walks like a ballet dancer if you see
Yeah,
it, because the way he holds himself and his feet were apart. And I thought, okay, another clue that's where he spent a lot of his time.
right.
Yeah.
And
But that was a fun scene too, where he's just like, what makes you think I will never stop by?
oh yeah,
But I'm
and he
inviting you.
he because
Well,
he
I'm
knows
not
exactly what he is, what Appleton is. He knows he can
totally
spot him a mile away and be like, I would never in my lifetime, even if you were the last person on earth, as it were, would I stop in
exactly.
for a coffee.
You're right. I don't
Because
like
he knows exactly what type of a person that Rappleton is in terms of the gossip that can cause a lot of
oh yeah,
pain and suffering.
and
And in
damage.
this respect, it does, because it finally gets back to the boss again of Mr.
Yeah.
King, and he fires him because of
Mhm.
the, how dare your wife have an affair and causing
Mhm.
problems, and all of this culminates to what we find out Belvedere has been doing in his uh, in,
In
in
his locked
his
room.
in his locked room. He's been writing a tale called Hummingbird Hill,
There
which was
you
all the
go.
gossip that's been happening. He was able to go through the secretary at the boss's office, whom he really appreciates, because I love that moment between the two of them where he's like, "You've got a great head on your shoulder. You're going to go far." You like he
Yeah.
approves and appreciates how she can handle herself, and he's like, "You're going to be more
Mhm.
than just a secretary. I can see it now." And that's
Mhm.
how he got all of his information. So he creates this scandalous book
Uh-huh.
that,
Right.
even though he's changed the names, everyone in Hummingbird Hill knows exactly
Knows
who's who.
exactly who it is.
And so, of
Yes,
course,
including his
mayhem.
boss.
Yep, mayhem
Yeah.
ensues as they all
Oh,
try
yeah.
to figure out, how dare this Belvedere do, how did he know all this stuff, we're gonna sue him, we're gonna get him. And and it
And
comes
at the
to,
end, yeah, go ahead. Appleton coming in saying, yep.
exactly, because they all follow each other, like all the biggies are like ready to sue and ready to sue, and Mr. Appleton's with them being like, how dare you talk about me and my mother like this, my mother nearly fainted and
Yeah.
I died because of you. And then we see Belvedere say, "Well, who else would know all this information besides I only got this information from other sources, but who do you think was the main source of this? Somebody who sits in their house and looks and asks, reads
Mhm.
mail that's been opened." And all of a sudden they realize that it was Appleton who had supplied all this gossip. And
All
he's
the
like, "You," and they
information.
gets chased out of town
Yeah.
because of this. So you see you see how gossips get their comeuppance when
That's
you see
right.
it in that respect.
Delicious.
So, and I love
Delicious.
there was a moment where I think Mrs. Tracy's character says something to the effect of, "It was hilarious watching them trample over his irises as they ran him out of town." And I was like, "Yep, his iris collection is now ruined."
It's smashed. Smashed. And, yeah, and at the end, he I'm trying to remember because I'm thinking there was a point where he thought he'd leave or but he hires, uh, the husband's firm to right,
Take care
defend
of the
him.
libel that's going to happen.
Right, right. So he does that, but then the
Which
kids
is
get
great,
really
because that's what Tracy, the wife, wanted him to have his own firm, because she knew he was
better
better
than
than what
them.
he was doing with his boss and could do it himself. So his friend and him can start their own business with Belvedere as the first client, which we
That's
don't ever get to see. But
no. Yeah.
um, except I guess in the sequel, the next one, he's apparently, Belvedere is fighting all these libels from the book. And
Oh,
now
I wanna see
he has to work in a college setting now to pay for all the, and I was sort of like, I can see where they would go with that, but I'm also like, isn't Belvedere, wouldn't he know about all the libel problems while he's writing the book, if he's a genius in that respect as he says he is? So I was sort of
yeah.
like, okay, I can see where they were just trying to find something to get Belvedere to do, and this will be the easy way to get him out of Hummingbird
Mm,
Hill.
mm.
Because at the end of the film, he says, I'm going to stay here and write the next two novels. So it'll
Yeah,
be a trilogy of Hummingbird Hill. So I need a place to stay.
right.
So I'll stay as your sitter. And then we have a hilarious moment where Tracy says, "Well, we might have one more." And he's like, "Excellent. I was an excellent obstetrician."
One more thing.
Just another thing. And they just give him a look like, huh? And then, of course, we have the hilarious music go out
That
to
is,
the end credits, and
I was humming that all day. Dee dee dee
uh,
dee 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 dee
it's
dee.
such a
Pretty
it's
baby.
yeah, exactly, and it's such a charming film, and it's
It
really,
is.
you can sit back and just, if you can, the hardest thing is trying to find this film because it's not available unless you can find things on streaming services. But even then, it's one of those hard to find ones. So either finding it on YouTube
That's
or
where I found it.
even, yeah, exactly. A lot of these older films that sometimes we discuss.
Mhm.
This previous episode that's coming out, um, that will be have come out after this episode.
Yeah.
I found on YouTube as well the Easter
Eagle?
films that animated films. It's just so hard to find these old obscure
Mhm,
ones because they're
mhm.
not available on DVD or on VHS since we don't have VHS anymore.
I
Um,
know.
and they just don't
That's
transfer it well into the DVD
yeah,
world because there's not as many people clamoring for it. But yeah, definitely
yeah,
watch this on YouTube because it's a
yeah.
very droll, witty comedy that has a few belly laughs here, but mostly it's like you're just watching Clifton Webb like just pull out all the stops as Mr. Belvedere. He is so hilarious just to watch
Mhm.
and still very prim and proper, but he's able to kind of give a lot of that comedy and even
Oh,
just
yeah.
his facial expressions of just like oh ah.
Classic, classic. And again, like in Laura, subtle, but you know exactly what he's thinking. Like, there's one point where he's, like, making his salads because he's also a vegetarian,
Right.
okay? For that day and age, that must have been like, "Oh, another weird thing." And he's, like, making a salad, and the husband's going crazy. Like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, just life goes on, I'm not gonna
Yep.
stop because you're having
he's
a hissy
he's
fit.
shredding the
I'm gonna
lettuce
make
with
my
the
salad."
yep. It's I mean and it's true. It's like he's like life goes on. And that's the life of a philosopher, as it were. Life has to continue no matter what's happening in the world or what's going on in the kitchen right now. I've got to finish my salad.
That's right.
Otherwise, I mean, if I don't finish this salad, it's going to wilt and it's just
Yeah.
going to throw me off balance. And you don't want me to be, irritable.
That's right. Yeah, no, you don't.
You don't
No,
want
you don't.
to get on Belvedere's bad side. That's for sure.
No, you don't. No, no, you will feel the wrath. You will feel the wrath.
Exactly.
And even telling
Exactly.
him how to do he's giving the baby a bath. The father comes in to talk to the baby, and he goes, "Don't ever talk to him again while he's getting a bath." And it's like he's a two-year-old. He's like, "Now take the washcloth in your left hand," and
Yep.
just
He's like, we can't make bath time be a
social. Yeah.
social
So
gathering, as it were, and that's just how
seriously.
Belvedere's strict with how. But he makes sure. I mean, everything that they've got manners now, and they're able to like
The dog is behaving.
even when they kind of go when the dad is trying to fire Lynn Belvedere because of thinking that something's going on in the family, the kids are like, no, 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 please don't go, Mr. Belvedere. And he's like, now, now,
Uh-huh.
now, children, don't. Your father, you've got to listen to your father. He's still, even though that was a moment where I felt that you could get like that caring feeling that Belvedere
Yeah,
has of like, you see how the kids are actually like going, we want him to stay. We need him to stay. Please don't make him
yeah,
go. But he still can't, he still has to be like, nope, children, you've got to be brave with
mhm.
this. You've got to let your father make the decision, and I'll go
Respectful.
wherever I have to go. Um,
Mhm.
and
I
of
love that
course,
though. And the baby cries and he goes and the father's going, "What's going on?" He goes, "Children are psychic."
well,
He's
and
just
I mean,
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about like, I mean, it's true. I mean, you
Mhm.
can young kids.
They pick up
There's
on it.
one of my favorite Stephen Sondheim musicals. He mentions children will listen, so like they know what's going on. They can feel that vibration is something's off here, and yeah, and
Mhm.
that's like child psychology that Mr. Belvedere has. He's like, this is exactly what I'm talking about, Mr. Tracy.
Yes. I love it. It was just such a romp, such a fun romp. And
Yeah,
I wanna see the sequels just for the fun of
yeah.
it.
It's like one's called Mr. Belvedere Goes to College, and then the third one takes place in an old folks' home, where
Oh,
he goes
wow.
to be I don't know if he's the recreational director of the
Oh,
retirement
fun.
home or something like that.
Oh, that should be
I
fun.
think those are even harder to find. but they might be on YouTube as well.
I
As I was
think
saying,
He Goes to College is on YouTube. I want to find the third one though, because I bet there's some great character actors in that. I'd love to
I'm
see that.
sure, I'm sure,
Yeah,
because
and
it
old
goes into a
Otto.
totally different direction from the first film. But Sitting Pretty,
Oh,
if you can find it and watch, and you're looking for just a light comedy that is just going to like give you some chuckles, and just really see Webb at the top of his game, he would be nominated for Best Actor for this. This actually put him from being a supporting character to an actual leading actor status.
hmm
And then he
hmm
would go on to be in like Titanic in 1950s and Cheaper by the Dozen, all the way up until I think 1966 before he passed away. He continued to work up until his death. But yeah, it
hmm
was just another one of those stories of Hollywood where like people just started off at an older age and became
Yeah,
superstars at that age
yeah.
because they just had what it took to be what the audience wanted, and that's what they came to see and wanted to see. And it's also nice to
And
see
he
a
was
comedic performance get an Oscar nomination
which is
because
very
it
unusual for the time.
exactly it doesn't happen very often.
Mm,
And when it does, you because comedy is a very hard it's very hard to do. Drama is easy in a respect because it's easy to just be like take things seriously. But comedy, if it doesn't go quite right, then like if
mhm,
somebody else had played this role besides Clifton Webb, it may not have gone off so well, or won't be as remembered as it is today for cinephiles.
mhm,
And
mhm.
which is why I'm suggesting that. And I'm glad this was your first time seeing it, because I mean I was like, oh great, I love when I can show a new movie to somebody who hasn't seen it before. Same when I see a new movie that I
Mhm.
haven't seen before,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just
Oh,
really like adds something to it, and
to
just gives
see
you
it
another
with fresh eyes.
perspective of the actor as well. Because if you're used to
Mhm.
seeing him play these serious roles, and you see him play this comedic sitter,
Brilliantly,
it's
really
so
brilliantly. Yeah.
opposite ends of performances. That's why I thought it'd be fun to do the double feature of a noir film with a comedic performance, because you can see the
Yep.
the gambit of his performing, um,
Yeah. He was
and
so
why I feel
gifted.
he's such an underrated actor, because he could have like had he. I mean, imagine if he had been able to start in the 30s.
I
But then
know.
it's also like you have that thought of like maybe he wouldn't have had these roles at that point because he would have
Maybe
gone into a
not.
different direction. So we can be thankful that he didn't get those jobs back in the 30s
Well,
and went on to do
absolutely.
his because I'm sure the
Ab
training from doing Noel Coward,
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
witty, um,
Right. That fast,
yeah, that
witty,
fast
very
pace comedy.
sharp.
Yep,
Mhm. That kind
perfect.
of,
He's perfect for that.
rapier wit. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And it
Yeah.
really plays out in Sitting Pretty because it's a very witty comedy, and you've got to be fast on your toes while you're watching this movie. It's also very quick. It's I think an
It's very
hour, 20 minutes, maybe an hour and a half. Same with
it's a
Laura.
delight.
Laura's a very short film
Yeah.
as well.
And moves
So
very
for those
quickly like
who are
the
looking for something that's less than 2 hours,
Yeah, for
these
sure,
these are perfect, and the
for sure.
pacing for all of them is really good. So you never feel tired or bored with each section because something else happens that makes you
Mm-mm,
follow that.
not at
Um,
all. And touching on what we were talking about before, when I read, Gene Tierney's, autobiography, they remained lifelong friends, she and
I
Clifton
can
Webb.
I can see
Yeah,
that. I mean, they
just
have such
adored each
good
other.
chemistry together in
They do.
Laura. I mean, it crackles a lot of the time, and,
It
and when
does.
they're not together, it's like oh, because
Yeah,
they do
yeah,
have such
yeah.
good chemistry together.
So now I
Um,
wanna see The Razor's Edge because they're both in that, right?
that's right. That's right.
Okay, okay. That's
I do
we
need
gotta
to
we
see that.
gotta
Maybe we'll
do our
put that
homework.
on our list of upcoming
That'd be fun,
features
yeah.
because I haven't seen
I
it.
don't know how I missed it. Yeah, and,
It's
Tyrone Power is in it, I think, or
and
something.
Anne Baxter won an
And
Oscar
Baxter's
for her
great.
part in
Oh, yeah.
that. So there are things about it that I just like. I should have thought of it, had this on my list a long time ago. And
Me too, me
so
too.
yeah, but again, another Clifton Webb performance that I haven't seen that I think would be amazing. And same with Gene Tierney. Um,
Mhm,
I just love it because all these are such underrated actors, and I love giving them their due because they weren't superstars in the same way as like Joan Crawford and Betty Davis and Barbara Stanwyck were, who were
mhm,
household names.
mhm,
These were people who you just knew, you've seen them on the screen. They give
mhm,
great performances no matter what they do, and
mhm.
you just don't think about them as often as others. And that's when I'm like, that's what I like this platform, as well as I can start to show off some of these actors who should have gotten their dues at the time when they were in their heydays,
Absolutely.
and also to keep them remembered, because it's easy to
Yeah.
forget a lot of these
Yeah.
old actors who, if we lose out on these old films, uh, and they get lost in time, and
Mhm.
you want to just make sure that they can still be seen.
It's
And
art.
that's one reason I love with YouTube, is all these old films that you may can't find on DVD anywhere or on streaming services, they're available to see on
Yeah.
there. And Turner Classic Movies is also good about showing
Also great.
all these
Also
films.
Yeah, Laura
And
pops up a lot on TCM. Another shout out to one of the actors, though, talk about a really great stalwart character actor, was Ed Begley Sr., plays the boss in Sitting
yep,
Pretty. He was
yep.
terrific. Really
He
terrific.
has a really memorable moment there. He
Yeah,
gets to do his like
yeah.
little jovial faces and like
He was
uh,
great. Yeah, he was
yeah,
great.
he's great. He's also really good in Sweet Bird of Youth in the '60s. That's what he won his
Yes.
Oscar for, and
Oh, great.
that's a very
Right.
good Tennessee Williams drama. If you get a chance to
Right.
see that, um,
Yes, definitely.
with
Great play.
another
Read
with
it
another
too.
actress starring another what I would say underrated actress, Geraldine Page,
Geraldine
who's one of
Page.
my favorites.
Mine too.
Um, she will make an
Mine.
appearance on this platform because I'm going to do my favorite of hers is Trip to Bountiful. So at some point,
I
I'm going
love
to do that film. So I'm
great.
just trying to find platforms for these underrated actors and actresses that I can just, and plus films that also like really touched me in some way that I really like cared about when I first saw
Well,
them.
there's an actress that I adore that I also feel was sort of underrated, and you know who she is and has some great films, Teresa Wright.
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah,
She's another one who
and
would you'd see on the screen and be like, she just turned in a good performance, no matter what type of film it was, she was always solid.
yeah. She's also in my favorite. I love Hitchcock. I love all of Hitchcock's work, but my favorite Hitchcock film, she's in it, and it's
Shadow of a Doubt,
yes, and
which
that's
was
another one I
Hitchcock's
do.
favorite movie of his that he
Is that right?
directed.
I didn't know
That
that.
that that was the one he
Oh,
personally
oh, I
thought that
never knew
that was
that.
the one that was the best of his work. So, all right, there's another one I'm going to write down on my list
And
of.
then when she starred with Dana Andrews in The Best Years of Our
Oh,
Lives or Life, which is oh my god. Yeah,
that's another good one as
that's
well,
a
with another
mm.
underrated actress, Myrna Loy.
Love her and the Thin Men
Sorry, folks, we're
series.
just going off on tangents on these wonderful actresses
We're
that we love.
cinephiles. Yes, yes, we love her.
This is
She
what
was
happens when
so
you have
great.
cinephiles in the same room.
Yes, drinking coffee together.
Yep,
Chatting a
exactly.
mile a minute. Oh, yeah.
uh,
So many to discover, but,
exactly, and
you
I'm
learn from
hoping
these
that the younger
performances.
generations can also like start to appreciate some of these films, because we don't get as many
Yeah,
unique films as we used to get like this, because these were just like sent off on the
yeah,
just assembly line nonstop,
to
and they made
totally.
hundreds of films in a year. We don't get as
With
many
no.
nowadays.
With the best writers and the best actors and the best directors and the best cinematographers and the best scores. We didn't even touch down on the score of Laura. Listen to it.
Laura has a great score, especially for the
Yes,
film noir genre. It's
that's right. It's a
um
classic. It's
yeah, because
gorgeous.
it's a
Gorgeous.
gorgeous noir style. Definitely feel that noir image with that score.
Yeah.
um
We could talk for hours and
I
hours,
know.
Ben. I love it.
Well, I mean, this was a wonderful discussion.
Yes, it
Uh,
was. Thank you.
I really was grateful that you wanted to talk about Clifton Webb and the two films that he's probably most well known for, and
Hmm.
yeah, just and to introduce you to Sitting Pretty, and also revisit Laura, because it had been a while since I'd seen Laura, and
Yeah,
just remembering how such a great, almost perfect film it is,
I agree.
especially for the genre. Yeah, this was, and our Intelligentsia coffee was perfect. A good blend to
Delicious.
put with this.
Perfect.
I think Lynn Belvedere would approve.
I think you would too. I definitely do. And I think Lydecker would as
I
well.
think so
That would
too.
be a nice cup of coffee after his
It
lunch.
it's not an offensive brand.
Smooth, like he is.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm. Yeah.
So thank you all for listening, and Danielle, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for
And
inviting me. It's always fun. Great talks.
We will see
Great
you at the next
conversation.
reel.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Ben.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more film and coffee lovers find the show. You can catch up on all our previous episodes on your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to check out realbeans.com for show notes, pairing details, and more. If you'd like to support Real Beans and help keep the show going, head over to realbeans.com/support. And hey, if you've got a film or coffee recommendation you think would make a great pairing, drop us a message on Instagram at real_beans. I'd love to hear your suggestions. And so until next time, sip, watch, repeat.